In DS9, even camping trips have body counts. As we found out this week on Future Please, a vile visit to Bajor. My name is Joseph.
You know, I'm the same age as Joseph, and I also work the same hours as Joseph, and I have a Star Trek podcast like Joseph, and I live in a house like Joseph. I'm not Joseph, but I'm just saying if I couldn't get through something, there's no way in hell Joseph could have gotten through the same death trap. I'm your co-host, Peter.
Peter, what extraordinarily interesting episode of Deep Space Nine did we watch this week?
We watched the season 2 finale, episode 26, The Jem'Hadar, first aired June 12th, 1994, written by Ira Stephen Bear, who, big fucking deal, right? This is the guy who is actively shaping the future of what Deep Space Nine and Star Trek is going to be. So very important writing credits there, directed by Kim Friedman, who, what did we say? She didn't do Generations. What was her big claim to fame?
We touched on her earlier. She did The Wire. She does several of the more important DS9 episodes to come. She had some bad Voyager episodes, Parallax, Cathexis, Twisted. But The Wire, I think, was her big claim to fame in terms of the stuff we've already seen.
In-universe date is 2370. And 2370, at this point, has TNG wrapped?
It has. All Good Things actually came out before last week's episode, Tribunal, which is why the mention of the Enterprise in Tribunal was a bit of an Easter egg as a confirmed mission of the Enterprise D post All Good Things.
We are now writing Star Trek without a TNG net under us. They're going to do Generations.
Yes.
So basically, when's Generations take place? Let me look at that real fast. 2371.
Yeah, so it doesn't take place for another year.
Well, listen, it's a bad 2 years for Galaxy classes, all right?
Yes. Yes. Not
it's
good.
I don't know what Federation commercial insurance looks like.
Man, so I know we talked about maybe getting into this in the meat and potatoes, but I was researching my Galaxy class lore in advance of this conversation because I know that's just your bread and butter. You love this thing.
And I would venture to say a good chunk of our audience as well.
Yes. We called it out when we were previewing this episode last week, which is to say they very clearly chose to use a Galaxy class starship as the unfortunate victim of the Jem'Hadar to make a point about the level of threat that it represents, that the biggest, finest luxury star cruiser in all of Starfleet, its most technologically advanced and powerful ship, is not sufficient to dealing with the threat of the Jem'Hadar. Was a conscious choice and one that was wise, I think, for them to make, because it certainly sets the table for it being a threat that's beyond the Federation's natural technological superiority to deal with. They only made, according to the information I looked up, 6 Galaxy-class vessels, right?
Damn.
6.
So we can say the Odyssey's gone. Spoiler alert.
7, I'm sorry. So that's
the Yamato.
So the Galaxy itself, the Enterprise D, the Odyssey, and the Yamato are 4 of those 7. We don't know the fate of the Galaxy, Pathfinder itself. It's out. We will see it later on in Deep Space Nine, but it's out there. So we know 3 of those 7 were destroyed. The Yamato in season 1 of TNG, the Odyssey here, and then the Enterprise D when it crashes into Viridian 3. Oof.
Well, and then if we are to be generous and allow Picard season 3 to be true continuity, we know there's another galaxy that was lost because that's what Geordi takes the star drive off of to pair with the Enterprise's saucer.
The Syracuse. So the lore is going to develop in that they are going to build more of them.
Oh.
So this is the starting 7, though, is where we're at this point. As matters continue to evolve, we will see additional Galaxy-class vessels be constructed as part of the effort.
I'm ready for this entire episode that we're recording right now to be nothing but Galaxy talk. Because This is such an interest point for me. I'm, and it's hard to like really put real thought into this stuff because it's just writer rooms and people writing episodes around worrying about how they're going to pay their mortgage or whatever. But like, man, the Yamato was such a black eye
Yeah.
for this thing. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if they were like, you know what, for the resource costs on these things and for the radical doctrine shift that we are going to be forced to adopt post Borg, and as we now go back into it with the Dominion, like the Galaxy it's an incompatible ship design because of the heavy focus on the civilian component, right? And you don't need all of that space if all you're doing is staffing Starfleet and some mission specialists. Thus, the Sovereign class, which is a little longer but much smaller surface area wise, right?
And also built to not. It's built to fight. Like the Sovereign class is developed in the aftermath of the Galaxy class no longer being fit to purpose. So you have to think of the Galaxy class vessel as a ship built in peace, right?
It is the pinnacle of Federation hope, hubris, and Roddenberryness, right?
Yes.
This is a testament to Gene Roddenberry's brighter future where humanity has divorced itself from war. It has the ability to defend itself fiercely, but they're not out in the stars looking for trouble. They're out exploring, and they want to explore so deep for so long that they need to bring their families with them to do the missions the right way.
Precisely. And also have all of those extra mission specialists for all the niche scientific and engineering things that they're going to do. So it is the most Roddenberry of creations. It is so not supposed to be in battle. It is capable of defending itself, but it is not a warship. It has never been designed to be one.
The core feature that we are introduced to the Galaxy class, episode 1, is that if push comes to shove, this thing can break itself in half. It can fly all the women and children off to safety, and then the star drive can hang around and push shit in.
Correct.
And we don't do that frequently because there's there's a budget that goes into these saucer separations. And also, frankly, I think the star drive looks not that great on its own. It's not as impressive. But that's the point of this thing, right? Like they're so conflict averse in Gene Roddenberry's like core belief of what the Enterprise should be that they're swooshing the kids off in the event that things really do get hostile.
And I think there's a allegory here, intended or not, that the destruction of the Galaxy class vessels as the threats that align themselves against the Federation from beyond its natural borders begin to press into it is what ultimately results in the Federation instituting a much more militaristic shipbuilding regimen, which includes the creation of the Steamrunner, Akira, and ultimately the Sovereign class vessels, which are all built with much more combat capability as a consequence of first the Borg invasion and the destruction of a lot of the fleet at Wolf 359, and then also the reality of the Jem'Hadar lurking on the other side of the wormhole and what the Dominion could potentially be as a threat to them. That we have with the death of the Roddenberry ideal in real time to them in character. Like, oh shit, we're not post conflict anymore. We actually have new conflicts with technologically superior entities that really just want to destroy us and are rather ruthless in doing so. And we're going to have to pivot away from this ideal and towards things that, while still capturing the Federation's relationship with trying to be peaceful, are more realistically aligned with the need to defend itself.
And this is all coming in hot on the heels of the Cardassian border skirmishes, which were not a thing until they started developing these DS9 plot lines, right?
In TNG, obviously, they were developing it in preparation for Deep Space Nine.
But this wasn't Gene Roddenberry. They never mentioned Cardassians are a completely new creation, again, made in anticipation of Deep Space Nine. The Federation, Starfleet held the technological superiority through that, especially with I don't know what you want to call the generation of ships that Galaxy classes and Nebulas would be involved in, right? But like the Excelsiors and the Mirandas and that stuff were
It was a
able,
pinnacle of like the TOS era. Like that was the prior generation of
and that's what
starships.
seems to have fought the border, whatever the Stargazer class is. Like that's what they
Yeah.
were able to beat the Cardassians down with. And then as
Constellations, Ambassador class. There's a
Ambassadors, right?
few other ships in that era that were kind of built before they bridged over to this sort of more all-inclusive luxury starliner type of stuff, like with the Nebula and the Galaxy.
This exploration, we've got the best tech, and we can go with this hybrid model of civilian military, and we can make these big floating targets with these massive saucer sections between the Nebula and the Galaxy class. And our guns and our shields are so good that we can still keep our biggest enemies, which, we're going to have to lean and say are the Cardassians as far as active threats go. Certainly the Klingons are on and off.
Romulans,
yeah. And, the Galaxy at least was at least a match for the Daredeks. But, we can make this hybrid model, and it's feasible. And we're not looking for problems. If problems find us, our shields can hold up, our guns are good enough. And it's more than enough for our last hot conflict, which was the Cardassians.
right?
And then Wolf 359 happens, and the Borg. And you get wrecked, and like your entire back catalog of ships gets shithouse. And obviously, again, I know there's what's the aggressive ship doctrine called?
The Advanced Starship Design Bureau.
I thought it was an actual, like, no, this is part of the whatever Rinaldi doctrine or something.
The response to Wolf 359 and like, we have to develop new starships to deal with this threats that go beyond our present fleet's capacity was the Advanced Starship Design Bureau, and which is what Sisko was a part of prior to getting Deep Space Nine as an assignment, which is going to come into play here very soon, next episode, at first part of season 3 here. In that it was worked to create starships with a better capacity to deal with threats, up to and including even the creation of the Starfleet's first and only vessel it's ever built specifically for the purpose of combat.
So then they stop after 359, and let's cut all the out of character, like, it doesn't make sense. It's out of budget. It's unnecessary. It's not the story they're looking to tell. Starfleet gets out of this wartime mode, seemingly, which in retrospect looks unconscionable because that there are terrible things out there that you have no handle on whatsoever. And you won that round, but when's the next thing coming? Blah, blah, blah. And like, why would you back off? Why go back? And I think the in-character headcanon kind of has to be like fatigue and fear, and a desire by Starfleet to kind of stick its head in the sand and think, maybe it'll be okay.
Well, they're not, though. I mean, the after Wolf 359 is when all of these advanced starships begin getting designed and ultimately built. And when you think about the time period from Wolf 359 to when you actually see them on screen, which is going to be First Contact and then in Deep Space Nine, I mean, that's about what it would take, right? We have to.
So then why does the Defiant get? Well, is that just pure story? Like, we had to make the one Tom Paris super bad boy starship that has to go to jail because it's just too much of a bad boy to be out on the streets?
So, kind of. So I don't want to spoil it because the story of the Defiant is
let's
leave that
off the table. Then.
So we'll put that one aside. But all of the other ships they design, which all have similar systems to the Defiant, from, like I said, the Steamrunner class, the Akira, the Sovereign, they all wind up getting built and are used by the time these threats come knocking. And
very curious then that they're going to build more galaxies if they've got more. You don't ever see Sovereigns in Deep Space Nine, do you?
Yes, I think you do in some of the big battle scenes. Yeah,
that's dope. But interesting that they would continue to put the massive resources that a Galaxy class costs in, given that it's just incompatible with where Starfleet and the Federation as a whole are in terms of conflicts.
Yeah, they had apparently additional frames that they built but didn't finish because they were so expensive. They go back to finishing them, and they also do refits to them that allow them to basically operate as carriers for Peregrine class fighters, which we'll
Hmm.
also see.
Hmm.
They make use of the material in different ways, right? Okay, the Galaxy class frame itself has a lot of potential. It can generate a lot of power. It can carry a lot of phasers. Like, it could be a powerful platform that we could still use. And if we're not going to fill it with thousands of people, we're going to cut all the civilian out and a lot of the science stuff out. Then we can put in we can put in hangar bays, and we can have it launch fighters.
I want to talk about people numbers, right? And an importance, I think, in terms of fandom in taking death seriously.
Yeah.
Right. To respect the subject material and allow it to bring the gravity to these situations that they need. And it's very easy in sci-fi and other stuff to be like, oh, especially like Star Wars and stuff, like when Star Destroyer goes down and it's 74,000 people or something. Ridiculous.
Yeah. The numbers in things in Star Wars are so comically large as to things don't have impact. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff we laugh about and wave off and just call silly, but for stuff like this, you got to take deaths very serious in Star Trek when ships are blowing up, because you don't just have these ridiculous numbers of Star Wars. Wolf 359 is this massive space 9/11 that resonates forever, that wiped out huge swaths of Starfleet, not only in terms of ships, but people.
Yeah. Imagine a huge amount of their officers died. So much so, that Liam Shaw, a very broken and difficult man, was able to rise through the ranks to captain, because who else do you have, right? Like, you've lost tens of thousands of your officers.
Your
right?
idealism is gone.
Yeah.
You got people. Who do we say that we were? There was a conversation we had that was good. That was basically like the current crop of Starfleet is coming through at the worst time with the most wars and the most bad happening around them.
This was this was the point where we were talking about actually Lower Decks, and we were talking about Beckett, because she is a officer at this time. She is an officer at the worst time to be a Starfleet officer. She's going to have to fight the Klingons. She's going to have to fight the Jem'Hadar. She's going to fight the Borg. She's going to fight the Dominion. She's going to fight the Breen. Like, she's going to do it all. She's going to do everything. And it's awful. And everyone she knows is going to die.
And that's not what you signed up for.
No.
So there's a big lurch of people that wanted to go be explorers and live in the Roddenberry utopia. And instead they're getting thrust into a very dark and scary galaxy where everybody has identified the Federation as a fertile field waiting to be pillaged. So as people die, keep in mind that this is not something that anyone in this generation has grown up accustomed to. This is tragedy after tragedy.
Yeah.
When the Odyssey goes down, even though it's unloaded all of its civilians and stuff, like the operating crew of a galaxy is still 600 people or something?
Yeah, hundreds of Starfleet officers died. By the way, nice call on are they going to have a line of dialogue where they unload the civilians? And it turns out they very specifically do.
Because you could easily go both ways in this, right? They've already killed an entire 1,000-person plus galaxy when they did the Yamato, and I don't know if really they understood what they were doing.
Yeah, it was so early in the show.
I mean, they make a big deal because they're like, Jesus Christ, everybody's on there was 1,000 people, but that was meant to stand out as the uniform crime report, the highest point that there would be for Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, right? Not there will be multiple of these and it's going to be a blink of eye. So you could have killed everybody, and you never would have seen the Enterprise unload everybody before a scary mission, right? And this wasn't even really a capital level,
no one knew what the fuck these guys were. They were going in just to go get Sisko.
You put in the best. Well, really, the Odyssey's going in there to investigate what happened in New Bajor.
Yeah, true.
And it's not like Starfleet specifically sent the best of the best in. The best of this being a Galaxy class, not necessarily
just happened to be there.
Enterprise. it was coming back from dealing with Cardassian shit. They just happened to be there. And that's why they don't send like an armada in to check this out. That could have very easily have been a Miranda or an Excelsior or, a
Ambassador
Nebula,
class.
Ambassador,
Yeah.
or whatever. They were just going in to peek their head and see what was going on. Seemingly fortunately, they had the Odyssey on hand to go in and check it out. But that should have been just a reconnaissance, right?
Yeah.
Them offloading everybody was very clearly the writer's room showing compassion, being like, all right, well, we want to show the tech's not up to snuff, but we're not looking for the real space horror here yet, right?
Right.
So as we talk about this stuff and as we start to wade into the Dominion War, I want to take the death tolls as serious and big deal because I think that
the show does too, to be honest with you. The show takes very seriously the death toll, and it starts to stack up as things go on.
And starting with the best of both worlds, and even, was it Q Who?
Q Who was the one when he got like introduced into the Delta Quadrant. Yeah.
Berman era Trek, I think, does a great job treating crew death as horrific. Like just the Borg cutting the hole in Enterprise's saucer and pulling that core sample out, and like the first couple people there, like they're deaths that matter, and they're abnormal deaths. This isn't Klingons hammering you in a slow, honest fight. This is one-sided terrorism, basically. And there is a lot going on with what will be the destruction of the Odyssey, both in terms of here is the peak of Federation power. It wasn't good enough. Picard's Enterprise wouldn't have been good enough. And not only are you getting beat on technology, but these are horrific death toll numbers. It does a great job setting what the stakes are going to be and really kind of like ramping you up to see some shit go down and feel for the people that are watching.
And gives you a sense that like the Jem'Hadar are extremely serious, right? Like they are built to fight and die. And this is not like some performative Klingon, today is a good day to die, and you go down.
But boy, am I glad we got to slide out of that. Like,
yeah, no. It's like, seriously, no, I'm going to kamikaze you to send a fucking message. Like, fuck you. It's like, oh, okay, that's new. That's different. That's scary.
I'm going to kamikaze you as you're trying to leave. This wasn't one of us has to die and I'm willing to die to also make you die. This is, but wait, there's more.
So before we get to all of that, we have a wacky adventure to go on where a dad asks son to go on a fun bonding trip, and he asks his ne'er-do-well friend, and you're kind of stuck allowing him to come along, and then his parental figure comes along, and you don't like him, and it's just like the most relatable Star Trek's ever going to be.
It's turns out it's take your kid to Hell Week in Starfleet. And the easiest access that Ben Sisko has to hell is the ovipositor that drops nasty plots all over DS9. So he goes, hey, instead of you... I also like this thread we've seen with like Sisko being very critical of Jake's ambitions, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, he's already announced that he doesn't want to do Starfleet. Jake went into a job, but he didn't do very good with like the technical stuff. Now Benjamin's like kind of looking down his nose at the science project, which is watering mushrooms to see what roots are going to grow the longest.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you can do anything, what would you do? And Jake's like, I want to
learn to pilot a runabout, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm. Which, listen, man, if you got access to holodecks and you're not already out there learning how to do all this cool shit, like, shame on you, Jake. But I want to do a planetary survey over in the Delta Quadrant or the Gamma Quadrant. Great. And Sisko's excited because this is going to be a great chance to bond with the son. He must have hit his head recently and forgotten that only bad things happen over there. But he's willing to roll those dice. I'm sorry. He must have forgotten that last episode, one of his crew was abducted by fucking Cardassians while on a runabout vacation. and he was just put on a
Yeah,
kangaroo
but they're going to
court.
go to the Gamma Quadrant. They're not going to Cardassian space. They're just going to the wild, untamed nonsense realm that they have to pass through the God's Eye to get to.
Come on, son. Along the way, I'll introduce you to my new friends/bosses, the prophets.
No, it's
Maybe you'll get to
your
see
new
Mom.
gods. Yeah.
Maybe you'll get to see Mom while we're over there. It's been a while since we've seen Jake and Rom together. I'm sorry, Nog. Nog. Great setup, because ultimately this is going to be Sisko Quark heavy buddy time, and they have not really been alone on screen per se. They're a great pairing,
Yeah.
and this touches on dynamics that we've been setting up for the past 2 seasons. Quark wants billboards.
Yes, he does. He wants to put pop-up ads into all of the displays on Deep Space Nine.
He has been reading up on humans and their racism against his culture, and along the way he found out about pop-ups from the late
Brilliant.
90s, early 2000s, and he wants to capitalize on that technology to sell merch. What do you call them? Collectibles?
Yes, at
He wants
very
to sell
reasonable prices.
Funko Pops.
He'll donate 3% of his his net profits to. He loves to support Bajoran orphans.
He will
they
send
need
blankets. Yes.
Yeah, they need the blankets. So it is a classic setup, though. Like, you could do this in any sitcom. Dad wants to bond with son. Son's like, "Oh, hey, my best friend that you don't, the Beeve is going to be coming along with us," and he's like stuck saying yes because he's guilted into it immediately by Jake saying like Nog also needs to pass his science test, and I don't want him to drop out of school, which again is a ongoing plot line that we have well established, that Jake is shepherding Nog through kind of becoming more of a real boy, getting a real education, trying to expand him from beyond just being a Ferengi. So, nothing quite like the Federation ideal to make Sisko have to accept things that are being handed to him.
Which is kind of ridiculous that he would tolerate this. I would say that, obviously the point of this is to get Sisko trapped in a jail cell with the local rogue, right?
Yeah, the local criminal, yes.
And this D&D adventuring pairing of what are we going to call Sisko? A warrior, obviously, I think.
Yeah. He's definitely a fighter. And
they need to pair him with the thief, with the
yes.
rogue. And they're going to have to ramrod this thing to make it happen. But I'm going to call this ramrodding it. And it works great. And it shows that you can create ridiculous situations. You just got to build the flimsy bridge to get there. And everything that Ira Steven Bear does here to get to this ridiculous situation works great. So they fly over. We very quickly find that Quark is city slickers. He does not like nature. He does not like bugs.
No.
He has a great scene where they slather him in like fucking sunblock or off or something.
Yeah.
Because he's having allergic reactions. This guy's not built for away team missions. Jake and Sisko love the planet. They recognize it for the Southern California paradise it is.
Yep, complete with the giant redwoods.
Yet another perfectly habitable planet in stone's throw. So I guess you can just give away M-class planets willy-nilly because they're all over the goddamn.
Perfect. It's a verdant paradise with no large predators.
Just a little bit of bugs and trees. Doesn't get much better than that.
And Sisko is making jambalaya. Nog's getting along well. He's doing the science project. He's not a problem. It's just Quark being the city slicker, up to and including not liking jambalaya and setting himself on fire. And it's
those space fabrics are very clearly heavily gosh, wouldn't that be a terrible byproduct that replicated clothing is extremely flammable?
It's all polyester. It just goes up.
I had this zip up track jacket I got from Old Navy, and I don't know, I was probably 23, and I'm living in my own, the first time I lived alone by myself, and I was cooking something on the stove, and it was an electric heating coil stove. And the thing was on high, and I reached over, and it's not like I pushed my arm on the coil. Like, my arm was maybe 5 inches above this thing as I reached to the back to get something. And I watched as the sleeve just real time instantly disintegrated around my arm and turned to like ash and fell off under the heat. So
Jesus Christ,
these synthetics I got no doubt that that Quark really was being careful as he tried to pick bugs out of the fucking. Which, if there was ever a B plot waiting to happen, it would be this, where like this is a very Voyager or Enterprise, I guess, setup here, where like bugs have flown in your food and you ate a couple by accident, and now you've got the space madness, or you're sick,
right?
or
Like, yeah, he didn't do scans that well. We don't know if these bugs have like psychotropic chemicals in them.
you didn't pre-inoculate, or you should have been eating your Federation gel packs or ration packets, or this is why you don't cook on virgin soil. Bugs get in your food. Why does Quark and the lady they're having a discussion. Quark's like, you're racist, here's the reasons why you're racist, you're being mean needlessly to me. Sisko had kind of already pre-disclosed that he had seen through Quark's plan, that he doesn't really care about Rom needing a chaperone, that he just wanted to use as Nog. He just wanted to use this as a chance to buddy up to Sisko and get his pop-up access, get them billboards. This is Lamar. This is Clear Channel he's talking to right now.
Yeah, and there's like allusions, but not direct references to Sisko tolerating Quark's overall criminality over the course of the first 2 seasons, and that he is trying to steer this moderate course where he's tolerating all of this without really giving an opinion on Ferengi themselves, while Quark is just continuing to hammer away at this, and will continue to hammer away at this when they're in captivity.
And but this is not old. This is great recap. I mean, these are things that Quark's alluded to in the past, and these are biases that Sisko has shown, right? Like, and we've talked about how even in the idealist post-scarcity Federation, there is some sort of racism present over
cultural bias.
Sure,
it's a better way to put it. It's not a racism in the classic sense of I don't like you because of your ears, or it's more high-handed cultural superiority, right? Like, we look down on Ferengi because they're obsessed with the material.
Sure, but going so far as to be taught at the Federation per Caretaker 1.
Yes. To Quark's immediate glee to be able to take advantage of, but. While they're having this discussion,
real quick, I do like that Quark fingers this as a Federation ideal and not necessarily exclusively human. And as there is no Ferengi participation within the Federation, like, it is a us versus them mentality that you can carry.
Right. And it's not, it takes it away from being like a specific racial grievance too.
Sure,
it's not that humans don't like Ferengi. It's that the Federation isn't compatible with Ferengi ethics.
Yes.
That is when Eris shows up. Eris is a woman who will later identify herself as a Vorta. This is going to be important. Vorta are a key element of, spoiler alert, the Dominion. At this moment, she is identifying herself as a fugitive. She blasts Sisko with a energy ball, saying she has telekinetic powers. Fun fact. They decided that was a stupid idea, and you will never see a Vorta use, quote, telekinetic powers, nor have them referenced ever again after this.
She is a subclass, a Street Fighter.
And she had Hadokens.
Yeah. They replace that with the Dragon Punch, which we will see Jeffrey Combs deploy twice.
Yes. Jeffrey Wayun is a tight hurricane kick aficionado, but
he actually swapped the Hadoken for Guile's flash kick.
So it is funny to see this and be like, oh yeah, they just decided after like, all right, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing energy ball launch, boys.
Ooh, those are expensive special. I don't like this one.
We're just never going to speak of this again.
Mm-hmm.
But for the plot, for this week, I guess you could say, like, she had a device to simulate it as part of like this ruse that they're going to develop. But she shows up, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm being chased by the Jem'Hadar. Who are they? And then suddenly, out of personal cloaking fields, step some very spiky boys. And this is our first sight of the Jem'Hadar, the foot soldiers of the Dominion. And they are tall. They are brutal. They want to meet Klingons, and they don't give two fucks. Very, very interesting way to introduce them. Just we're here to fucking kill people. That's what we do. Very different than the Klingons.
And we know about you guys.
Yes. To a degree that begins to disturb Sisko quite evidently. That he's like, this is more than just some rando dudes trying to capture some lady, and maybe I can negotiate my way out of this, and we could no, you seem to know who the fuck I am and where the fuck I come from in a way that I don't like, because I don't know anything about you.
I've been so wrapped up with building maintenance, Doom levels, and Azeroth Surface Quest nonsense on Bajor that I've completely ignored all of the breadcrumbs that have been sprinkled about this Dominion. Quark, however, very quickly remembers his Pell episode and goes, the Dominion, we've been trying to, the Ferengi Alliance or whatever has been trying to open trade negotiations with these guys. I think he even offers the fucking wine that was the initial bargaining chip.
He does.
And this is the real episode presenting itself here. It is upfront and personal conversation between the Federation, the Starfleet representation, so far, I mean, really, Quark kind of represents the most effort that's actually been put into the Delta Quadrant, right? Because all of
finding the Dominion specifically, yes.
Right, like, it's a great framing. I can't think of a better group to put in there or pairing, because anyone else is going to basically ultimately reflect Sisko in this, right? In terms of a militaristic or a Starfleet outlook. Quark on this show is the avatar of civilian life.
Yeah.
And Jake's going to grow into that, I think, in some capacity as well, as he's rejected Starfleet. But right now, as far as being the uniquely not a Federation, too. So you get A, a civilian outlook, and B, you get more of a real modern day outlook that can look at these goofy Federation ideals and be like, no. So you've got Starfleet meeting a great threat. You've got the civilian element seeing something very scary lurking, and also something that is actively sought out and really been unable to get firm footing, despite however many bondage clowns he tried to deal with to get access to these guys. And now it's presenting itself saying, here we are, and even though we're just soldiers, we are intelligent, we are technologically superior, we know a ton of shit about you, and you know absolutely nothing about us other than what this little theater is going to reveal. Do you think the soldiers know that Eris is a double agent?
Yes, 100%. Absolutely, they do. I know this because I know how the Dominion works. So another thing they're going to retcon, actually, or establish later on that they hadn't established at this point. This episode, they talk about the founders.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of mythical leaders of the Dominion. They had not conceived of at this point that the founders were the changelings. So they made that decision going into season 3.
Which jives nice because Delete the Village, they talk about changelings and they call them basically they're mythical. They're not real. They're not superstitious.
And that was an episode again with hints of the Dominion in it. We've heard about them. They're this threat. They're in the Gamma Quadrant. The Ferengi have been trying to open negotiations with them. The Federation has a vague awareness that there's something called that out there, but hasn't met it in any substantive way. And while all this is going on, the Dominion knows a lot about the Federation. It knows about its political stance with the Cardassians. This random guy knows that, right?
So let's take these interactions between Quark, really Sisko and the Jem'Hadar, and call it just that. This is all theater. This is a presentation. None of this is happenstance. They have sought out Sisko with this skit to create a first contact. And this is essentially a scripted presentation of the face that the Dominion wants to actually show to the Federation, right? Because by the end, Sisko has been bookmarked to survive this thing. They have made the decision that they're going to destroy the Odyssey as a flex of power. And ultimately, they want to insert Eris as a deep cover spy, right? For question mark amount of time. But all of this is to present Sisko and the Federation with basically the entire sum of information that they will have moving forward on it. And they've chosen to present themselves as asshole tyrants. Right?
Yes.
There is
right
no,
off the rip.
You have Eris saying, these guys are monsters. They have destroyed my planet. They subverted my government. We have been enslaved. There are no good...
destroys New Bajor. Just kills everyone there.
These are guys looking for problems.
Yes. They want you to know they're violent and they're willing to kill you.
We're not showing any good face at all here. They don't want to negotiate with you. If they want something, they will either tell you that it's theirs, and then they will take it and expect you to cooperate, or they will just ravage you and take what they want and break everything along the way, which is like, I think really the first time you've seen this in Star Trek. Obviously the Borg are completely alien and do not act with malice. But like Romulans and Klingons, like, I think there is an option there to...
You can negotiate with them. Yeah. You can talk to them. You can figure things out. You know, they're reasonable. And the only way you could, because
they self-present as something grand. Whereas these guys are coming and saying, hey, hi, here we are, and we're going to talk about ourselves in the third person, and we're murder hobos.
Yeah, we're going to open by killing everyone on New Bajor and showing up with a bloodstained pad with a list of all the other people we've killed and drop it off for you. It's just so you know what we're about. Oh, by the way, when you brought your Galaxy class ship in, well, let's go ahead and suicide bomb it. Fuck you.
Thanks for bringing that. We know about these. We're going to break it. I think the end thrust is, for right now, the Dominion is saying, stay out of our part of the galaxy. Which this makes sense. Like, as a defensive measure, the Dominion...
It's unreasonable, but it makes sense, right? Like, if you are a xenophobic, militaristic, reactive force with no morality, this is, okay, yeah, like, fuck you. You came into my territory, I'm going to kill all the people you brought, I'm going to kill all the ships you brought. Let me make it clear what the consequences of violating my territory are. It's harsh, but I get it, you know?
We weren't looking for you. This is not our timeline. You have subjected us to your timeline, and we are not prepared to act on that just yet. So get the fuck out of here. Stay the fuck out of here. And
it's funny you bring up that exactly. That is really very interesting, Peter, because the lore that's not in the show ultimately is that the Dominion knew the Federation existed before the wormhole opened.
Really?
Yes. We're going to hear all about it. And they had planned on encountering them in 200 years. And then this screwed everything up. Like,
and again, you've got a wormhole opening in the middle of your territory, and now a large power from well outside your borders is like, cool, here, we want to do business, and we're coming through here. Like, like you said, it's harsh, but this represents like a big fucking deal to a secure fascist organization like the Dominion. I mean, you've got this huge gaping butthole that is
that has
a way
aliens that you can't really interact with, right? Like gods for all intents and purposes. So you can't really destroy the highway theoretically. So that leaves you with,
I don't know, that dirty Bajoran terrorist thought he was going to be able to.
Thought he was going to be able to, right? We don't know if he would have succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
And so you might necessarily be able to deal with the road, but maybe, if you've got an axe to grind anyway, maybe you don't even want to. Be like, okay, let's move the timetable up. Deal with you now.
Going to have to. And instead of just going about things the StarCraft way and surrounding this access point with photon cannons, Tesla
you have to construct
coils,
pylons, yeah.
Mm-hmm. hey, we actually flew out of the wormhole today. There are a lot of turret platforms over there. I don't think we should go through that anymore. Space mines. Yeah, like putting your finger in a hole to plug the dam and just saying, it's very scary here and we can absolutely kick your ass. You're done exploring. You've gone overboard with this colonization. Like before it was just reconnaissance and surveys and, you left your space pope behind. Now you've colonized. And New Bajor, I believe, is the only colony that has been established up to this point, right?
Correct.
So that definitely warrants interactions here. And we are going to fully present ourselves to you, Ben Sisko, as insufferable tyrants that want nothing to do with peace. We're going to present you with no good, no opportunities or footholds for diplomacy, and we're going to make sure that you survive to get back and tell everyone at home that there's fucking dragons over here, and abandon all hope, ye who enter.
And it's all well set up to make the Dominion a threat, because if they had left any space in terms of their morality or ability to negotiate, like if there had been any daylight in any of this, then you wouldn't see the need for like we're just gonna get ready to fight a war. Like that's it. That's what's gonna happen. These guys are clearly at some point we're gonna fucking have to fight these guys, right? Like they are not interested in anything else that we can approach them with. And by setting them up so harsh right off the rip, you are able to I think more appropriately set the table for moving the Federation through storylines into a position where it feels it's got to be ready to fight a real conflict against an adversary power, which is not something we've seen in Star Trek yet, right? We've not seen the Federation have to go to a real war ever. And so how do you get a idealistic, peaceful people to have to reorient themselves around their entire civilization having to fight a war to preserve itself? Well, you better make sure that the antagonist is very unreasonable, right? Like it has to be, you can't do the Borg where they're just machines built to take you over. We're going to have them have like sentience and free agency and all of that. Okay, well, make them very, very harsh. Yeah.
And also, too, jumping back to the threat that this wormhole represents to the Dominion, it's opening up in their core control sphere. Maybe, not an area that's been actively, well, we don't know. I'm assuming all these Jem'Hadar ships probably have cloaks if the shock troops have cloaks. So maybe they've been under observation this entire time. But the threat that the Federation represents, not only in terms of organization and potential martial prowess, but the, not esoteric, but the fundamental paradigm threat that it represents in terms of hope and a nicer way to administrate, because everybody in the Dominion who's alive seems to be there actively under the boot heel of the founders and the Jem'Hadar, and you have an oppressed people, right, who have come to terms with this, and it seems to be a very productive government, right, of fear and hostility. And here's the Federation and its big ideals and egalitarian society and all that, and you don't want your oppressed population seeing this and getting hope and wanting to do things a different way, right? Like that's poison to you. These
Correct.
guys their idealism is very dangerous, and
it's a weapon in of itself. Yes,
right. So I absolutely, everything they had the Jem'Hadar present itself as and the actions it took all make sense for a government that is essentially scared. Right?
Yes. It is kind of, again, I don't want to say too much because there's going to be a lot of detail about all of this moving forward. Your soul read on a lot of this is very accurate. You're getting it speaks to the effectiveness of the writing of the episode that you, someone who has never watched any of this, can pick up on the fact that Dominion is scared, right? Like this is the actions of a scared group of despots, and we'll get to know why. I guess we have some sense of it, right? Because we watched Picard season 3.
Yeah, but that was more like
there's some history there that you already know. Like it's not super fleshed out, but yeah. Speaking of Andor, which I recommended to everybody last week, like brittle fascistic governments are scared because their ability to control is based on the ability to monopolize reality. And when you lose that capacity, the control disintegrates in your hands quickly.
Because you're not the best option for the everyman.
But there's a natural tendency towards people wanting to not be, oppressed, right? When you know you're being oppressed, you'd want to not be oppressed. And once your control over everyone's perception has gone, all you have left is fear. And Andor, obviously, the show is really about the Empire trying to keep control for as long as necessary so that the Death Star can actually replace traditional control methods with like the ultimate fear of, if you rebel, we'll just show up and blow up your planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
We no longer will need the ISB. We will no longer need traditional methods of manipulating and gaslighting our population and controlling them through implication. If we literally could just roll up to the club in the Death Star and blow their planet up, they'll be afraid of death and they'll accept everything that we tell them they have to do. And in much the same way the Dominion is operating to say, we're scared. We're scared for a reason. All of this will come to pass, and that's why we're so harsh. We know what you, the Federation, could potentially represent as it relates to our ability to control.
So, other points of the episode worth discussing. I thought it was interesting that really Sisko was on point trying to disable this collar, because the plan was going to be, hey, Eris can use her Hadouken to shoot the force field down. Again, in retrospect, that this is all theater and presentation. Don't touch that force field. You can always touch the force field in Star Trek. Sometimes it zaps you back a little bit, but always, you get the special effect, like miming your hand over the wall.
Yeah.
You touch that, it's going to kill you. Well, how do you know? Because everything about the Dominion is lethal and built around killing people, and they don't care. That is, again, radical departure. This isn't a force field. This is a death field. If we can get this collar off me, it's this suppressor. I can Hadouken this thing. We can get it off. We know that Quark is an expert lock pick, but he's kind of being real butthurt and very scared. Great acting by Armin Shimmerman. Great cowardice without, it's not comical cowardice like Nog.
It's a little comical. It's a little, he's, being, particularly at first, being a bit of a bitch. I did like there was almost a double take when he kind of comes over and he's continuing his argument with Sisko over humans, and that, humans look down on Ferengi, but actually humans were worse because they had slavery. And then he snaps up and looks at him and be like, Quark, I don't know how closely you read that, but I know it was 600 years ago, but you should look into who was the enslaved and who was doing the enslaving, because this season I was called Ben a lot while I was picking cotton and forced into a hot box, so it's a little raw on me right now. Could you just maybe not with that? just saying, I am Death Row Sisko, and you are stuck in a death field with me, and I'm on my best fucking behavior right now.
Yeah, you don't want a Mortal Kombat stage fatality here.
just take one step back, brother.
It's also a great chance, this is a classic Outer Limits Star Trek, we're going to observe you from the inside. We've got our inside man here. We're going to see how you guys hold up. Yeah. Sisko does a great job of espousing Starfleet and Federation ideals through all of this. And as she sits there as the double agent, he's talking about I'd like to pursue diplomacy and basically walking the walk, right?
Yeah.
So great showing by him. Quark finally gets on the collar. Man, this is a real motherfucker of a lock to pick, but eventually he gets it. She zaps the field. Off they run. Quark can't keep up because his cardio sucks. He's just only doing the sexy stuff in the holodeck. He's not doing any of the jazzercise programs.
Yeah, he's not getting on the elliptical, not doing the spin class. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Eris is like, hey, let's leave him behind. Let's get you safe here, Ben. We don't have to fool around here. And again, those Starfleet ideals of, no, we're not leaving him behind. He's a part of this. We owe him our life for doing this. Again, we are the good guys. We're going to stick together. Rom and Jake have their little adventure. Nog. Yeah.
It's Nog. You keep calling Nog Rom.
Oh,
Rom is Nog's dad.
Because I made my post-it note wrong here.
Yeah, Nog. His name is Nog. He's gonna be in 50 fucking episodes of the show. You should remember.
Yeah, we'll see.
So yeah,
I like that.
Jake and Nog have their wacky adventure of getting back onto the runabout and trying to disable the autopilot so they can try and get back to Deep Space Nine. And it's actually quite endearing.
The one time we have ever seen where people who are not the Starfleet officers get onto the runabout, and they can't just tell the runabout, hey,
do this.
And the runabout go, okay, I'll fly into a star. The one time the boss's kid, who if anybody should know the fucking password, the guy that's been working with the janitor and fixing these things, the only person in the history of the runabout to ever encounter a parking brake or car keys or anything that just prevents complete strangers from walking in there and having their way. It's right now. This is ridiculous.
I did like that. Like, all right, I did work with Chief O'Brien. And he like does figure out how to disable the autopilot, and then he's like trying to pilot it, and he's like, it's really hard to do manual course corrections and impulse because the autopilot's broken because we broke it. It's all very realistic, and I thought it paid off. You know, the storylines that they gave Jake this season, and meanwhile, on Deep Space Nine, the Odyssey does in fact show up. So the Jem'Hadar show up and be like, "We killed everyone in New Bajor. We have your commander. Here's a list of everyone else we killed, and fuck you. And also, I'm out." And so now everyone knows they've got problems. And the Odyssey shows up. Captain Keogh,
right?
Keogh, yeah.
It's a strange name. I think it's Irish or something that they...
I don't know. All we know is that he is imperious. He's bald.
No, he's not bald. He's got a full head of hair. It's just very white and old manish.
You're right. It is white old man hair. I apologize for calling you bald, Captain. And he has beef with Dax, and Dax has beef with him. And that's actually where we get the dialogue of, hey, aren't you going to drop off all of your civilians before you go into danger? And he's like, have you ever thought about serving on a starship? Have you ever said that I might punish you?
I didn't get that impression. And in fact, there was a cut line of dialogue. Did you see it?
No.
Sisko disciplines Dax. She starts shitting on him, and he says, basically, like, he is the captain of a Galaxy class starship, and and I want him to get the respect he deserves. Is that the line?
Oh, where is this line? I didn't know where'd you find it?
It was in the memory. It might have been on Kehoe's page, actually, because I didn't really read this one specifically.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see here. According to deleted lines in the episode, Strict Dax complained that I'm 7 times as old as Keogh, and he treats me like some kind of... And then he was interrupted. It's like, he's the captain of a Galaxy-class starship, and I expect him to be treated with all the courtesy he deserves. So, like, Dax's beef of, like, treats me like a child. I don't appreciate it because I'm ancient. He's like, Sisko's like, suck it up, Jadzia. Like, Lieutenant, this is the organization you're a part of.
Again, it's framing on this, and I really wish they would have left it in, because there is the prestige. And I like in lower decks where, like, you know, we might be a California class, but we're putting in Galaxy class work today, guys. Like, this is a real status symbol. Again, this is a big
there's a hierarchy to what is your command. Yeah.
Or just what is the prestige in the Federation. And we're all used to seeing Galaxy class because that was, you know, our TV show. We saw these guys every day. We saw them at their best. We saw them at their worst. To the Federation, there's only 6 of these things with the Yamato out. This is a big deal. This is the first time one of these, or second time, because, you know, I guess they've seen their fair share of Enterprise or Galaxies, actually. But this is the best of the best in the Federation. It is here. We are sending it in to deal with this thing. Keogh is presented as kind of a dick. He's certainly no Jellicoe, but this guy is portrayed as hyper competent. As fair. I think him saying, hey, have you ever thought about serving on a starship? Like, I took that as, hey, we've argued in the past, but I see your thinking. Maybe you do deserve better than being at a space gas station. Like, I might be kind of prickish or whatever, but like, at no point does this guy show cowardice.
No.
He's obviously an analog for this is supposed to be the Enterprise. This is supposed to be
On
Picard.
purpose. They purposefully designed this guy to look like Picard and for him to be competent and courageous and doing his job.
His commander is a good guy. These are great Starfleet officers, and this is the episode putting the best people in who should have been able to make, short of Data being there, should have been able to make all the same decisions and be just as good as the Enterprise would have been. You're not cheering this guy to die, right? He sticks around long enough for O'Brien to find Sisko. He provides cover. He shows chivalry and honor and duty. And, they fucking kill his ass. Right. And it's ridiculous watching this because you don't know that at this point the entire thing's a big smoke show. Also interesting that the Jem'Hadar did show up to say, we've got your commander. We've killed all these people. We are bad motherfuckers, and you will never see your commander again. And kind of building in a weakness of allowing Sisko to jailbreak.
Well, again, they wanted it, right? They wanted a response.
They did want a response, but they also set it up to say, like, you will never see him again.
Yeah, because they wanted to make sure they came to get him.
Yeah. So in goes the Galaxy class with 3 runabouts. Or was it 2 or 3? I think it was 3. 2, right?
Because there's
only 3 on the station.
There's only 3 on the station. They had 2 that they had available to them. Interesting scene when Keogh was like, you guys don't exactly have, aside from Mr. O'Brien and Major Kira, none of you have combat experience. So like calling out, like, aside from your local murder hobos, like, who I will respect, the rest of you don't know how to do shit. And they're like, we fought the Wacky.
Yeah, we fought that mail truck they strapped guns onto.
To which she says, yeah, they were mail trucks. They slapped guns on. I don't think that's quite the same.
Oh, I respect your combat experience. Please, Doctor, you can be on a spaceship too. And we're going to fly in here with the best we have to offer in 2 RVs. I like the Jake and the Nog plot because ultimately they don't really accomplish anything. They poke around. Nog's a little scared. They show like very basic Scooby Squad skills of using the tricorder to try and find footsteps, locating where they're at, beaming up to the ship, and then running into the dilemma of we can't fly this thing because for the first time ever, there's car keys we don't have, that they didn't just leave in the ignition. But what they're showing is that even though they don't save the day and they don't do typical Star Trek kid shit where, they're the underdogs that defeat the bad guy or pull any Home Alone stunts, it shows that Jake has initiative and he puts the effort in, and while ultimately unsuccessful, it's not like he's sitting there scared, hiding in his sleeping bag, waiting to be rescued. Like they're taking action.
They take action to try and deal with the circumstances and do something to help. And they're not totally ineffective, right? They preserve themselves. They don't get captured. They were able to start getting the runabout in the direction of Deep Space Nine. Maybe they would have gotten there. Who knows? But
it's all shit that makes your dad proud. And also O'Brien, who's been kind of, mentoring him too and been like, all right, man, I've seen kids do much worse. Like, good on you guys. They fly in. They are able to say, hey, we know exactly where he's at. So as down on the surface, Sisko is saying, no, we're not going to leave Quark behind because he's that's not how we are. Fucking Dominion spy. We are the good guys. They get beamed up to the runabout, which is the interesting place to put him. Like, I'd be like, hey, can I go on the fucking Galaxy? Like, maybe we should all get on the Galaxy.
They had to make sure they shoehorn the runabouts in this plot so that none of the main characters were on the Galaxy class starship.
Absolutely.
You had to find a way to get your cast involved in a way that theoretically made sense that kept them off of the explodium machine.
And the whole time I'm watching this fight, because like the Jem'Hadar come in and engage, they are shithousing the Galaxy class, and yet these fucking space Winnebagos are fine and dandy zipping around taking pot shots, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
The shields aren't working, so the hull's taking hits. The nacelle is blinking. Like, this is, but even before the suicide run, this has come at a significant cost to the Odyssey just to engage these fools, and it's not going well.
Great writing, because Keo's like, okay, Jadzia, here's what's going on, and they're shooting right through our shields, and the Geo's like, oh, cycle the things that works against the Borg. Nope, went through the whole spectrum. None of that works. They are fucking us up. Dump all of the power out of the shields, put them into the weapons, and that becomes very important, because that's how they're able to pull that suicide run off. Like, he basically just turns the fucking shields off, which turns out big mistake. And it's not a mistake that you can really hold against him, because it seems like the reasonable things to do. Like, the only defense at this point is our offense. And certainly they wouldn't ramrod us, right?
Right. Who would suicide run us? That's ridiculous.
Especially as we're trying to slip out. So I would say, which ultimately they do, right? The nacelles blinking, shades of, what was the time loop episode with Frasier?
I know what one you're talking about, but I forget the name of it.
Where the Bozeman comes out of the thing and clips. The nacelle continues to be a real Achilles heel for the Galaxy class. But as they're attempting to withdraw, because now the Odyssey has provided the distraction, they've retrieved the commander again.
Oh, shout out to the Odyssey scenes being filmed on the battle bridge.
Is that where it was?
Yeah, I think that's the stand-in for the Odyssey bridge. That's what it looked like.
Because they would have been filming Generations at this point. Like, the main set piece would have been tied up.
Right, so you can use the battle bridge.
Which, smart on them. I mean, if you're going to unload all of your fucking dudes at the space gas station, you better be down in that ultra-protected nerve center that should have been where all of Picard's operations, not the place with the skylight above you. When you're fighting enemies that cut holes in your deck and steal people out of them. They go to withdraw. They slam into it. You see O'Brien, and I like them having the picture on O'Brien as the Galaxy glass goes down, because that's been that guy's home for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
He knows exactly what's there. Why would they do that? They were trying to withdraw. We're dealing with fucking terrible murder people. And they get back on to Deep Space Nine, and we kind of get our debrief there that, even before that, Quark's like, hey, boss, let me tell you what I see. I was trying to Hong Kong reverse engineer this thing and get some hot new slave collars out on the market.
I like that it's like he got a better working relationship with Sisko, so he's like, hey, listen, I'm just going to tell you right the fuck now what's going on, because I was going to go do some nefarious shit, but turns out we got a bigger problem on our hands. We've been played the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And just like immediately like, Commander, we got to fucking talk. We got a problem, man. And Sisko's like, okay, see, making fun of the local criminal element has its benefits. Let's roll into ops with our guns out. Let's take care of this problem.
Hey, you tricked us, you bitch. We got big questions for you. And she's like, well, too bad I'm not going to be around to answer them, because I have super long range transporter or something. I'm going to beam right out of here. And off she zips. Do we see this character ever again?
Eris? No, unfortunately. They were going to use her in actually the beginning of season 3, but I think there was a conflict with getting the actress. This one doesn't show back up, though.
Ultimately, a lot of stuff happens in this episode that is big deal stuff. I don't think it was especially great in terms of scripting or like any super knock me out of my seat performances. I think that they don't really, for as big of a deal as it is of the Odyssey blowing up, I don't think it has the cinematic flair it should have.
Yeah, and the episode's kind of half tied up in a goofy situation comedy before the real shit starts.
Which I like as a contrast, honestly.
No hate on either part of the plot. The big finish is almost a little rushed, right? Like, all right, let's go fight. And they have a fight, and it's relatively like high budget, all things considered, for Deep Space Nine. But it just feels like that part of the plot's like 10 minutes. and it's a kind of at the end. And a lot of the material that you and I have been talking about, it's like what we get from the implications.
Yes.
It's what we're like processing as a like. Here's the downstream effects of the things that we've seen. Here's like how these things make sense in context. Not necessarily that they spend a ton of time like laying this out or explaining this to you on screen.
If I would have shown this to my wife, it would have been a no big deal episode.
Exactly. This is for Trek nerds. Is the like the level of detail you can get out of it,
This
which
is a
makes
Pearl
sense.
Harbor event for Trek nerds, and I think to a casual watcher, this could have been any filler episode at all. So it's neat, and I'm saying that as credit that's how good the writing is getting on this show and how well they know their audience, that we can sit here for an hour and 15 minutes talking about this episode, which is really just kind of an okay episode, and talk about it like a big fucking deal that it is, because we know that and because they knew that we would know that. So huge implications, big messaging.
Yeah. And it results in a massive, massive change to the show. It does. Like, not only does the Defiant show up, new characters show up, new like because of the security situation that is going to develop.
New guns show up.
There is actually so much cool detail that starts to get developed from this point forward that I'm excited that you've never experienced it. Like at the level of nerd shit that I know you will love. And it starts right away. Right? Like I don't want to talk about any of it. I don't want to spoil any of it. I want you to go in. I want you to have it wash over you. And when we do launch into season 3, what is it that we are going to be watching?
We're going to be going into The Search Part 1. Sisko. Oh, there's some Jem'Hadar. Look like they're standing in a dusky, smoked out sickbay. Sisko takes an untested Starfleet warship. Gee, I wonder what that could be. Into the Gamma Quadrant in an attempt to find the founders of the Dominion.
Look who wrote it. Look who the teleplay's by.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's Ronnie, baby. Ronnie's here.
Be more. Story
Ronnie
by Ira
Moore.
Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wilf, another Kim Friedman.
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about the names that make Deep Space Nine? Ira Stephen Bear, Robert Hewitt Wolf, Ron Moore. Those are the dudes. They're the ones that make this show from this point forward.
Is Ronald Moore moonlighting here before getting in bed with Voyager for a little bit?
No, no, he does Deep Space Nine to the end. So
okay, that's right.
Yeah, he wrote. He was a big writer on TNG at the end, right? We forget,
right.
Like he did All Good Things, the Pegasus, all like season 6 and 7, Chain of Command, like that was all him, right?
So that's right. So he came into Voyager with Deep Space Nine already under his belt, and then
Deep Space Nine ended, and this is why he doesn't show up in Voyager until like season 6 or whatever it was there at the beginning, and then was like, "Fuck this, I don't like it. I'm gonna go make literally this show with blackjack and hookers." Yeah, and then he did First Contact too. Like he's in the trenches here with Deep Space Nine at the same time as doing movies and shit. But yeah, huge deal to start to see his name. This is his first episode of Deep Space Nine, and he ultimately he might not have credit for maybe 24 or so episodes, but he is in the room and is a writing force throughout the rest of the show.
As we're going through all this, and as I was watching the Jem'Hadar episode initially, do you think that the Dominion would have been able to stand up to the Borg?
This is a debate fans have had for a million fucking years. The answer is that ultimately they think that they could have.
Really?
Again, not trying to spoil anything or say too much. The Dominion never actually gets to go full strength at the Federation. So the Federation, spoiler, the Federation wins ultimately this conflict with the Dominion, at the Alpha Quadrant as a whole.
Sure.
But it's not the Dominion able to exercise the full measure of its strength. And so there's long since been a debate of, well, if you were Dominion and you were full on against the Borg, who would have won? I think it's more of a, could the Borg have overwhelmed Dominion? Probably not.
Even with 56 cubes or whatever that they threw in the one encounter with species.
The Care Bear stare. Destruction. We're watching good Star Trek now. Fuck that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks for coming along this season, by the way, to everybody. Next week will actually be our RIP. So you'll hear about the search soon enough, but we're gonna do the RIP. If you're hearing this and you are somebody who is connected to our Discord, we're gonna be recording it live to tape actually on the Saturday after this episode comes out. So this episode comes out on May 22nd. We're going to be doing the recording of our RIP on Saturday evening at 9:00 Eastern. So there'll be a chat that you'll be able to interact with while we're recording live. Not only are we going to do our normal RIP stuff, we obviously have the Judgment of the Chadish to do, which we are going to be preparing evidence for. So we'd love it if you were there. And in the subsequent weeks, on the 29th of May and in the 5th, I should say that the RIP will go up as a normal episode on the 29th. If you don't want to catch it live or you can't, don't worry. It'll be everywhere. And on the 5th, we'll be putting out our episode on Star Trek V, which has been a Patreon review. So thank you to our patrons who keep our bills paid. We try to do extra episodes and let them have them exclusively for a while before we put them out for everybody. And then on the 12th, we're actually going to put out our Patreon review we did for the Unification short that came out this past year. A lot of Trek stuff came out this past year when you think about it. Not a lot of it good, but that was a rare exception to the rule. So that'll be a shorter episode for us, and then you'll actually hear our review of the Search Part 1 on the 19th. So, but thank you again. Like, our podcast literally doubled plus in total listenership as we started season 2. A lot of that had to do with us interviewing feral historians, so I can't really thank him enough for randomly responding to some guy who emailed him out of the blue because I liked his videos and talked to us, and he's been engaging with us ever since. So shout out to him and everybody else that found us because of that. And we're really looking forward to getting into the heat of the show. You know, this is Star Trek at its most beloved. It's in its highest nerd quotient. And I think a lot of people, Peter, are really looking forward to you getting to experience it for the first time and living vicariously through you. So,
well, I'm excited.
Hell yeah, man. I am too. And one last note for our patrons. You'll be getting an episode in the interim here, actually. We're going to do Star Trek 6 for you guys. We're not going to put that up for everybody for a while because I know we've been a bit delayed in getting movie reviews done. So we're going to do that, and then we've got to have a discussion, Peter, on if we're actually going to satisfy everyone's desire for us to do Kindred the Embraced and talk about life. I think we should. I think we've teased it long enough.
No.
But, we'll see if I can talk you into it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you in the RIP next week and season 3 before too long. Peace.